Hola a todos, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos a esta primera entrevista en persona para X Plus. Tengo la fortuna de estar en la casa de nada más y nada menos que Bill Champlin. Nunca me imaginé que terminaría acá. Bill voy a hacer una pequeña reseña, nació en Oakland, California, se mudó a Los Ángeles hace varias décadas. Su voz y teclados lo ha puesto en bandas como AOR, Airplay, Dakota, Bruce Gage, Jay Gordon, King of Hearts, Richard Marx, State Coast, Tamara Champlin, Steve Lukather, The Tube, What If, obviamente Bill Champlin, William Freisted, son of Bill Champlin en Wonderground, Chicago y como solista. Así que imagínense la cantidad de música, arte que este señor nos ha dado durante todas estas décadas. Tenemos a nada más y nada menos que Bill Champlin. Bill, how are you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? We got all set up. We're set to go.
Yeah. Thank you for opening your house, your home for me. I mean, this is a dream come true.
Oh, cool. Well, we're hanging. We were talking about Skype and all that. I kind of went, hey, if you're in town, why don't you just come over? Let's do it.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool. So it's great to meet Lucas and to see if he can do this, see if he can set all this stuff right. We're watching him. We're all watching him.
Well, this is the first time, es la primera vez que uso esta cámara, así que estamos acá un poquito nerviosos. First time that I'm using this camera. Él estaba diciendo, I'm going to be translating on spot, okay? Is that okay with you?
Sure.
I mean,
No
just saying what you said in Spanish. Él estaba diciendo, bueno, que estamos listos, que vamos a empezar con la charla en este momento. Vamos a hablar de el proceso de, bueno, cómo fue trabajar con Living for Love. We're going to talk about the new album, Living for Love, that I brought it here.
Yeah, it's the same picture as this one back here, which I think you can see in your frame. We had fun making this record, and it was we were all locked down because of the virus, COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of went, well, if there was ever a good time, and Tamara said the same thing, Bill, you're ready to make a solo album. So we kind of shut down. We were looking to make another Wonderground album, and I just went, I'm just going to make a solo album. It's been 11, 12 years since I'd made the last one. So we got into it, and it's just turned out to be a pretty good album. I mean, most people who like it really love it. So that's, what do you think? You like it?
I love it. Actually, I was going to say that this song number 2, which is Especially Me, is my favorite one. Very funky.
Greg Matheson, Greg's a co-writer, a dear friend and a co-writer who's been around for years. One of the best arrangers I know, and when he puts a track together, it grooves like a dog. So I mean, it's always so much fun to work on tracks that Greg sends me.
Oh, he sent it that one.
Yeah, I mean, he lives in Palm Springs. I live here. We were in that same situation where we kind of lived on WeTransfer, sending files to each other, and then for the horns on that, we instead of doing a full horn section with trumpets and trombones and everything, I just sent it to Mark Russo, who's a great sax player, and he did one baritone sax, 2 tenors, and 2 altos on one of Greg's charts. So he just knocked it off himself, stacked it up himself at his house in Walnut Creek, California. So, if it wasn't for WeTransfer, there'd be no album.
There was no album.
But although with Lenny Castro, I just took my drive and drove it up to his house. He lives up in Thousand Oaks. So, and he's got his whole thing right in his house. So he just hooked the drive into his system and kaboom, there you go.
Wow. Bueno, nos estaba comentando de la producción que bueno, desde que estuvo encerrado vino trabajando con nuevo material, que pensaba sacar algo con The Wondergrounds, pero prefirió sacarlo solo porque como solista hace como 10, 12 años que no hacía ningún disco como solista. Y bueno, me preguntó si me gustaba, le dije que sí, Especially Me es mi canción favorita. Nos pusimos a hablar un poquito de esa canción, de que Greg Matheson es quien la compuso, se la mandó por WeTransfer y ahí estaban mandándose files porque Greg vive acá en Palm Springs, que no es cerca. Él está más para el oeste y Greg está bien para el este. Y después la parte de percusión, bueno, la parte de rítmica la puso Lenny Castro, que bueno, él sí fue a la casa, porque Lenny vive acá a un par de ciudades al lado, entonces toda la parte rítmica fue en persona, el disco ha sido bien recibido, la gente lo está apreciando bastante bien, la producción. Si quieren ver el review de este disco, miren el último programa con la entrevista con Oliver Hartman, ¿ok? Que está este disco así. I was saying that last night I promote this album in the show,
Oh,
you know,
great.
and yeah, don't check on the review. It was a bad one. No, I'm joking.
I was watching. No, I mean, by the way, there's numerous ways to get the record. There's all the Spotify and iTunes and all that for downloads and streaming. But and I love the record cover itself. Tamara and I are basically the record company for physical sales for that. And that's easily gotten just mail order at BillChamplin.com. Pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bueno, decía que si bien las ventas se pueden ver desde Spotify, bueno, las otras páginas online, también lo pueden comprar en billchamplin.com y es fácil de comprarlo y ahí de repente está por ahí lo firmo. Mira, el mío vino firmado, vino autografiado, vamos a mostrarlo acá, ok, y viene con esta portada, viene con la fotito de él, promocional. How was working with these legends, you know, Greg, Abraham, Tamara, Tamara's wife. Actually, you included your son, Will, right?
I don't think Will did a very little bit on this. He just did a couple of little things. He's been so busy doing his own stuff that I just didn't want to bother him with my old guy stuff. He's we didn't get that much of Will on this record. We got him more on the last album that I did. But he's amazing. He's just a piece of work, boy. The boy he's so educated with music. I mean, he's a Berkeley grad, and at the same time, he's really aware of what makes stuff tick. He's way into EDM. He uses Ableton, which is a very, very difficult program, but it's one that really most of the younger producers and stuff are using it
right now.
Yeah.
Bueno, me decía le decía cómo fue trabajar con estos grandes la música, hablé de la esposa Tamara y Will, que se participó un poquito en este disco, en el anterior participó un poquito más. Es un genio en la música, se recibió de Berkeley, así que imagínense, Berkeley es como una eminencia, cualquiera que sale de ahí sale sabiendo tocar. Así que estuvo un poquito en el disco y bueno, fue bueno trabajar con él. What about the working with Steve Porcaro, with all the Beanie Colaiuta?
You know what? We had decided to do a record, and I let it be known to my friend Bruce Geich, who lives in Nashville or Brentwood, I think, same neck of the woods. And he says, "Hey, I got something might be good for you." So he dug into his Pro Tools folder and he found this track that he had done maybe 5 years before. And he sent me and Tamara the track, and we just listened to it and went, "Oh my God, we're on this." "Who's playing drums?" He said, "Vinny." I said, "Who's playing bass?" He said, "George Hawkins." And I went, "Oh God, I get to have George, one more track of George." And because George passed away 2 years ago, and he's one of my favorite bass players and one of my favorite singers. And he and Bruce Geich and I co-wrote most of my last solo album. So I really missed George a lot. And then when I found out that Vinny was playing on it, I mean, God, what a groove! That guy's deep. And you know, and we just kind of wrote the song. It was sort of, a lot of it seemed like lyrically turned out to be kind of about gratitude, you know, which was kind of, you know, even though Tamara was a co-writer on it, I snuck one by her. It was like kind of a thank you for saving my life, because she got me through a year of dealing with cancer a few years back.
Oh.
Kept me laughing, you know.
That's very sweet.
And then she and I co-wrote a good portion of this record along with Gary Falcone, and then those 3 songs with me and Greg Matheson are deep, really deep songs, you know. So it's that's the thing about the album itself. The CD is it's got a booklet telling you who's playing on what's going on.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah,
and the lyrics are in there too. So it's kind of, I like that. I like, you know, getting an album, putting it on, and reading about it while I'm listening to it. It's like the old days.
Yeah, I love it.
Looking at the back of the LP, you know.
Yeah. Me decía que Bruce Geich estuvo trabajando, le mandó Bueno, pues mencioné a Vinny Colaiuta y me dice que Bruce Gage ya tenía unas canciones armadas y se las mandó a él y dijo, bueno, y con George, que ya murió hace un par de años, y quería de repente una canción más donde participe George en el bajo, porque es un gran bajista y cantante. Entonces, bueno, ahí es donde participaron ellos, pero no fue, lo que quiso decir es que tal vez no fue que ellos participaron de manera directa, sino de que a través de Bruce han participado en este disco y aparte, bueno, dice que el disco obviamente tiene las letras, viene con quién toca cada canción y digo, la verdad está buenísimo este disco. Y también Tamara que coprodujo este disco. Le voy a preguntar cómo es trabajar con la esposa. How is working with your wife?
Great. She's people don't know about her that much. She's as good a singer as anybody I've ever heard.
I know about that.
Yeah. And so I don't have quite the falsetto that I used to have. So when I'm stacking vocals, which means it's vocal on vocal on vocal, usually I find that the vocal sounds better when I put her on the top. So she sang a lot of the background stuff on the record, an occasional little step out. But we really kind of went to try to make this a solo album. But in terms of writing and putting material together, I co-wrote with Tamara and a guy named Gary Falcone who was in Wonderground. I co-wrote with Greg Matheson, and then actually I co-wrote one with Andreas Carlson, who was he co-wrote a lot of those big Swedish hits, the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and that kind of stuff. He's big time, and I've known him for years, and he song called Too Good for Too Long on there is me and Andreas wrote, and so it's really cool. It's I kind of pulled out all my closest friends and said, "You want to help me make this record?" And everybody jumped on it.
That's very sweet.
I mean, Lenny Castro's on, I think all but one song, maybe two songs, and then Mark Russo's on 3 songs. He plays a solo on The Truth Has Begun that's ridiculous. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, he's just an amazingly great sax player. And he played with the Sons for a while, my other band.
Yeah.
One of my other bands,
Which one?
Sons of Champlin.
Sons of Champlin.
Yeah. And his usual gig is he plays with the Doobie Brothers, so he's out with them all the time. So it was really kind of cool in a way because I got him when nothing was going on, nobody was on the road. So he said, "Sure, I'll do it." So I sent him the stuff, and he just nailed it. He's just an amazing musician. He's not one of those guys that always spends all of his time trying to sound like Mike Brecker, which is if you're gonna try to sound like anybody, that's the guy. Him and Tom Scott are my 2 favorite sounds, And so I just went, I think it's maybe time to put Mark in the ballgame. So he tore it up. I mean, there's just a lot of people. Got some friends playing solos. Gary Falcone played a solo. Carmen Grillo, who's one of my oldest and dearest friends, who plays with the Sons also. He played a solo on it. And a friend of mine, another guy who played with the Sons for a while, Tal Morris, played on a song called Hey, and his solo is ridiculous. I mean, there's some really, really good performances by a lot of different people, including me. I played a lot of solos and stuff.
Bueno, él decía de que trabajar con la esposa es fantástico y que todo el proceso de producción estuvo, que llamó a todos sus amigos, todos dijeron inmediatamente que sí. Estuvo mencionando cada uno, Gary Falcone, Mark Russo, que han puesto un montón de arte en el disco. Lo estoy diciendo de manera en lo que me acuerdo y para ser más breve, pero más o menos eso es lo que está diciendo, que está hablando de cada uno, lo que ha hecho, incluso Carl también, que ha puesto parte, por ejemplo, Mark Russo trabajó mucho en la parte de sonido, de audio, si no me equivoco, e incluso participó con creo que la parte de saxo y todo eso. Así que básicamente es eso lo que dijo. De últimas, como siempre pueden ver después la entrevista subtitulada al español en YouTube. It was self-distributed, right? Está distribuido.
Well, it's kind of weird. A company
I'm
called
sorry, because
Imagine.
you have Turnip Music Group, right? Or you don't have that anymore?
Pardon me?
The Turnip?
No, that's old.
That's okay.
No. No, it's Imagine Records is in charge of all the digital, and he said he wasn't interested. Bob Weingard from Imagine Records, he wasn't really interested in doing physical copies like that. I said, do you mind if I do it? He says, yeah, go ahead. So he's Imagine Records,
the digital.
and then internationally, I think it's distributed by WMG/ADA, which is Warner Music Group. So I think they're distributing around the world. I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of job they're doing. I haven't really checked. I probably should. But I think at some point of the game, a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people who just don't do CDs anymore, and this is available to those people for sure. I think iTunes, Amazon, that kind of thing, Apple Music, those kind of places. So it's Bill Champlin, Living for Love. It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah. Bueno, dice que lo distribuye una compañía de manera digital, entonces con quien dirige la compañía le dijo si le importaba que lo pudiera sacar de manera física, dijo que sí, que no hay problema. Bueno, lo sacó él de manera física y lo pueden adquirir obviamente en billchamplin.com. Y que de manera internacional hay una compañía también que se encarga de distribuirlo. Le voy a preguntar de la canción que se llama Stevie Song. ¿Qué Stevie es? I'm going to ask you about Stevie Song. Who Stevie is?
Stevie Wonder.
I imagine that.
Yeah. It's weird. I was watching all these riots around the country, and I realized there were people out on the streets yelling at the top of their lungs, demanding one thing or another. And probably the demands were valid, but I just realized everybody was yelling. And then I thought, what are these people listening to? And I realized they're listening to records that are people yelling. So I'm saying, here the world's turned into yelling. And then you listen to Stevie Wonder, and that we kind of, he said the same things and was in a way demanding the same things. Not demanding, but he's just so spiritual. And not just Stevie Wonder. I mean, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. A lot of really cool stuff at a certain era of R&B, for instance, or pop music, Earth, Wind & Fire. And I just, there was no yelling all the time. And that's kind of what got me into writing the song. And somehow it ended up being, speaking of yelling, there's Rocky. Yeah. I just kind of went, somehow it ended up being a Stevie song. I mean, I start writing with something in mind. I don't necessarily write the title until the song's over with. And I go, oh, look what I've done.
You went to them.
And that's just kind of how writing works with me. I just write it and then it shows itself. I was talking to Tamara the other day and we realized songwriting is, the song's already written, you just got to find it.
That's good.
Yeah, you just got to find it. And that's kind of how we write songs. And what you need is there. It's just a matter of looking for it. It's like playing golf. Try to find the ball in the rough somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't play golf. I'm not good at finding the ball in the rough.
La canción es por Stevie Wonder y el tema es que estuvo viendo lo de las marchas el año pasado, ¿no? Por el morenito que han matado y la gente, el tema que dice, la gente grita mucho, está gritando mucho, entonces él se pregunta por qué la gente se está expresando de manera más agresiva, y es porque de repente escucha música agresiva. Entonces, ¿por qué no hacer algo que volviera a esos morenitos que cantaban con amor y con armonía, como Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye? Y básicamente armó esa canción y después se le dio la idea de llamarla de Stevie Song por esa razón, por volver un poco a esa manera más armónica de comunicarse. Le voy a preguntar de qué quiere hablar, porque tengo varias preguntas acá, pero de repente él quiere hablar de algo en particular aparte del disco. I have some questions already, but there's something you wanna talk about. Sometimes people ask you, and maybe you want to talk about something else.
Well, I just wanted to, just mention that at least on this record, I was really, the lyrics took a little more important role than a lot of records that I've done. And, and I wanted to really try to say something personal, without telling, my story of I got up this morning, had a coffee, took a run. Nobody's interested in that, but You
never know.
Well, possibly. What kind of coffee? But decaf, Maxwell House. What are you drinking?
That's enough.
But I just there's a couple songs on there that are really deeply personal. One of them is a song called "Another Lie," which is really kind of about my last 2 years of a relationship with my older son who passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
And he died the day after I was diagnosed with cancer.
Wow.
Nice week, huh?
That's tough.
Yeah. And it took me that song took me longer to write than any song I've ever written. It's number 5 on the album.
Yeah, I was trying. Yeah.
And then there were some other things. We were writing Jason and Chef and I were writing a song together, and we just had.
I love Jason.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he's fun. There's another guy who's funny all the time. He's great. But so I mean, we wrote this song together. It kind of made a little duet out of it. We were thinking of it for another project that didn't really pan out, and I just called him. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I flesh this out and get it really right, and put it on the album?" He says, "Sure, go ahead." So a song called "Show Me" is on there. And I understand that somebody's working on a video. We did a couple of passes of the song up in my studio, and a guy at Imagine Records, Steve Nathan, is putting together a video for that song. So the song's called "Show Me." It's a cool song. It's kind of a little more of a West Coasty kind of thing than a lot of the record. You know?
Bueno, estaba diciendo de que, bueno, en realidad quiere resaltar de que este disco en particular ha sido grabado, ha puesto mucho hincapié en la lírica, en lo que quiere, en las letras, en lo que quiere dar como mensaje de manera personal. Habla de cosas profundas, por ejemplo, el día después de que fallece su hijo de cáncer, a él lo diagnostican con cáncer y fue fuerte, entonces grabó el tema Another Lie, Otra Mentira, que está acá en este disco, el tema número 5. Entonces habla un poquito de cómo fue la parte de las letras, la parte compositiva de las letras de este disco en particular. Le voy a preguntar, de todos los artistas que ha entrevistado, la banda de él se llama Son of Bill Champlin, pero no hay ningún hijo de él hasta donde yo sé, así que le voy a preguntar eso. For all the bands that I know, this is the one that Son of the Champlin. There's no any Son of the Champlin, right? Son of the Champlin.
Not in the band. Well, actually, my son Will was in the band for a little while. But
okay.
He kind of ended up not digging it too much because I think we were playing a lot of gigs in Northern California. And a lot of the the Sons of Champlin were put together in 1965.
In the 65, yeah.
So we had a lot of our audience were kind of based on the old Fillmore thing, and he just couldn't relate to that. It was like he saw some people in the audience like, "Gee, I wonder where that person's teeth went." And he just kind of went, this has been good, but I don't really want to do it any further. And it was working that way. It was kind of with Will. It's kind of. He's so good and he's so powerful that you almost want to throw away everything and just do his stuff, and that's not what the son's audience wants to see. So it ended up being he was cool. He just said, "Dad, I don't want to play with the band anymore." So, but that's about the only time there was anybody.
The one song.
No, what it is that we had a really bad name for the band early on in 1965, and
what was the name?
The Master Beats.
Master Beats.
So people, it was a joke, right? And people were, promoters were going, not going to happen. And at the time, I was already married and had a kid. And the rest of the guys had barely started dating yet. So they used to call me Father Champlin,
Oh.
So that's kind of how it ended up being, It was the weirdest band name in the world, but when I bailed on it and moved to LA, that name kind of helped a lot. In that I had a little bit of visibility when I came to LA. When you come out of nowhere and move to LA to have a music career, 90% of the time it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But with me, I was already working with David Foster at the beginning of his production career. He was a well-known keyboard,
I know,
session guy without a doubt. But in terms of his production career, his string arrangements, I met him. Originally, Keith Olsen introduced me to him to do strings on a Sons album. And the rest was history. We started working together a lot.
Bueno, el tema es que sí, le pregunté de la banda Son of Bill Champlin y en un momento estuvo su hijo William, pero no le interesó mucho participar de la banda, pero la banda, antes de que se llame así, tenía otro nombre muy gracioso que lo acaba de mencionar. y no funcionó, no iba a funcionar acá cuando él se movió a Los Ángeles. Y él estaba saliendo, creo que con su ex esposa, y todos lo empezaron a llamar como el padre, ¿no? Entonces de ahí vino el nombre un poquito de Bill Champlin, The Sons of Bill Champlin. Y vamos a preguntarle un poquito eh, de la banda con la que tocó, ¿no? De Chicago, un poquito nada más. How was the dynamic ¿cómo fue la dinámica de quién cantaba en cada banda en Chicago? How was the dynamic of who was the lead singer on Chicago? Who was chosen to sing, the lead voice?
Well, I think they had already, before I joined the band, they had already established that Peter Cetera was the guy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
with a voice like that, yeah, yeah. I mean, such a great voice, such a great musician, such a great singer, good bass player too. And David Foster was smart enough to go, I'm going to work with this guy. And this is the guy that wrote If You Leave Me Now. It was a giant, universally giant hit. And so Peter's turned into being he became a really great writer and a really great singer. And I just kind of went, well, okay, I'm going to be a band guy for now. And it wasn't for quite a few years. And then when Peter left and we brought in Jason, they kind of leaned toward the tenor range. And we've established the range, and I think it was more about Peter than it was range, but it was decided that the range had, whoever's singing up there is the guy who's going to be, until Lookaway came along and Ron Nevison said, I want that guy to sing it.
Right. And because you were the lead singer also for quite a while.
For a little bit, yeah.
I mean,
Look Away, I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love, different things. But, Jason did his fair share of hit songs. So, and it was always kind of a producer's call more than a band call.
Right. Well, I Don't Want to Live
Without Your Love. I think the band would have probably preferred no singers and just a horn section.
Like Tower of Power.
That would have been fine with the horn section. Hey, why don't we just turn off the vocal and let's do that? I think nobody wants to produce that record.
Yeah. Bueno, le preguntaba acerca de cómo decidían quién era el cantante y bueno, básicamente estaba claro que Peter Cetera era el cantante, querían ese tipo de voz y bueno, cuando él vino y Peter se fue, hubo que rever quién iba a hacerlo y de repente Jason Jeff vino a bordo y quisieron mantener esa línea vocal, pero también él fue vocalista principal por un poco tiempo y de hecho cantó mi segunda canción favorita, que es I Don't Wanna Live Without Your Love, que es un temazo y lo pueden ver en YouTube y él está cantando ahí, viste, te va a volar la cabeza. I'm highlighting that song is my second favorite one.
Which song?
I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love.
Oh yeah, it's a cool song. It's another Diane Warren song. I mean, I think we kind of were at the what they would call a power ballad. I think we were maybe the first guys to get Diane songs and really put power ballads on the map. And then Roxette came with one, and a lot of different people would come. And Diane, that's one really great songwriter. I mean, it's hard, really passionate lyrics, accessible melodies, but always kind of hers. I love her. She's great. I don't think she's ever written a blueser. It's all great. It's all good music.
Bueno, le decía que era mi segunda canción favorita y estaba hablando de la compositora, que es una gran compositora y que bueno, trajo ese tema, tiene unas grandes melodías. Se estaba usando mucho las baladas en aquel momento, como Roxette y otras artistas, entonces vino bien para ese momento. Vamos a preguntarle acerca vamos a pasar vamos a hablar un poquito de Steve Lukather, porque yo estaba hablando con él hace poco de cómo se tienen que reinventar un artista para promocionarse. De hecho, es una pregunta que creo que él hizo. Y le voy a preguntar eso, cómo poder reinventarse, porque hoy en día los medios están completamente, hay millones de medios y es difícil promocionarse de una manera directa. I was talking with Steve Lukather recently, and we were discussing about reinventing ourselves as artists. You already have your name, but still you are doing new music and you want to promote it and you want to make it being listened to. How is reinventing yourself in today's where the media is so spread out? There's so many places.
Yeah, it's not the same as it used to be. It used to be if you get on Rolling Stones, you had a hit.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not quite the, or Spin Magazine, I think was another one. But you know, who's reading magazines anymore. So it's all kind of internet and blogs, podcasts, those kind of things. And I've done, Imagine Records put a really, really great publicist on the case, Shauna O'Donnell.
Shauna O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's really on the case. And I mean, I've done over 60 interviews concerning this album over a period of time, and mostly in the United States and Florida, and, you know, Illinois, different places like that. And I'm trying to get the word out as well as I can for what's going on. I mean, in this day and age, with the record business the way it is, if you're over 20, you're over the hill. You know, everything is just, you know, Tamara wanted to start a label and call it Embryo Music.
Embryo.
He said, yeah, I'm, you know, just kind of that thing. But and that's where it seemed like there's a lot of record deals out there for people that want to use the record business as a stepping stone to the movie business, and you know, and then there's somewhere in the middle of it all, there's musicians and songwriters and artists and performers who are who they are, and that's what they're always going to be. Michael McDonald's a great, for instance. I mean, no matter what's going on, that guy is as musical and as you know, he's just great. Want to come up, Rocky?
Yeah,
Want to be on TV?
Rocky.
Come on.
Bueno, mientras él trae a su mascota, estábamos hablando de cómo reinventarse y decía de que sí, básicamente si hoy tenés más de 20 años, estás medio como que fuera de lo que están buscando el mercado. Es muy difícil hoy en día promocionarse. Él, dentro de todo, consiguió una compañía que le trajo una publicista importantísima, que es Jana. Gracias, Jana, por hacer esto, y que le consiguió como 60 entrevistas solo para promocionar este disco nuevo. Entonces, hoy en día we have to work harder in order to promote ourselves. Yeah. Tenemos que trabajar más. Es mucho más trabajo de promoción que antes. Antes, si salías en la Rolling Stone, ya eras un hit seguramente. Le voy a preguntar un poquito cómo fue trabajar con miembros de TOTO, incluso con Joseph Williams. Tiene una banda. Está muy conectado con esa banda, ¿no? Entonces voy a preguntarle acerca de cómo es estar tan conectado. You are very connected with TOTO band in different ways, right?
Well, you know, I've worked with Joe an awful lot, Joe Williams.
Joe Williams, yeah.
And we did a kind of a band with me and Joe and a guitar player producer from Sweden named Peter Fristedt.
Peter Fristedt.
And so we're actually re-releasing the first album that we did in Japan later this month.
Sweet.
And I think on the same, and it's on. Sony bought it from the company that had it. I think it was Pony Canyon, and so Sony's re-releasing CWF1 on the 28th, and I think they're going to release my record also with a couple of bonus tracks on it, screaming tracks, a couple of extra ones, you know, because usually the Japanese record companies they want some bonus tracks.
Yeah,
that's just the way it works.
Yeah. So. And have you ever talked with Luke and David to be the singer of the band since they changed the singers?
With who?
With TOTO.
With TOTO?
Yeah.
No, I mean their singer is almost always a little higher range. Other than the songs that Steve Lukather sings.
Yeah.
Now Luke.
So you will be like
kind of sings the Georgie Porgy, that kind of thing. And then originally it was Bobby upstairs.
Yeah.
And then they went through a handful of different singers. They actually went through Joe, and then quite a few years later rehired Joe, put Joe back in the ballgame. And Joe worked really hard on making sure that top range was great. Because Joe was originally just a baritone, but I think he went to a coach and he really kind of got his higher range really smoking. And he's just on it, you know. Plus, I mean, working with Joe, especially when you're working with ensemble vocals, he's such a great arranger. The two of us together get in some serious trouble at times. Say, hey, try to mix this. How many vocal parts are on there? I don't know, about 40 or 50. We start stacking it up, and good night, Gracie. The next thing you know, it's everywhere. But I love working with him. But he's been in TOTO land seriously for the last 6 years, 7 years, something like that.
Probably almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, yeah.
Yeah, 2012 maybe.
I don't know, but a long time, and it's just it's as the more they work, the less I get to work with them. And now he's got a solo album out in addition to Steve Lukather's solo album, and oh my goodness, and it's all great music, really good music. I mean, Joe's he's a powerful force as far as I'm concerned.
Did you play on his solo album? I didn't get it yet.
Pardon me?
Did you play on his solo album?
Mm-mm.
No, okay.
No, not this time.
Bueno, le preguntaba cómo es, bueno, que él está conectado con muchos músicos de la banda TOTO y bueno, de hecho tiene varios discos sacados con Joe Williams y sí, bueno, trabajar con Joe es increíble como músico y le pregunté también si alguna vez fue invitado a cantar en TOTO. Si Steve Lukather y David Page lo invitaron, dijo que no, porque ellos para ese tipo de vocalista necesitaban a alguien con una voz un poquito más fina y él prácticamente empataría con la voz de Luke. Entonces, bueno, Joe ha estado en la banda, decía, por ya varios años, según él 6, pero creo que son unos 9 años si no me equivoco. Y que bueno, simplemente que ha trabajado con ellos de distintas maneras, pero no se ha dado de estar en la banda por una cuestión de compatibilidad vocal. Y la verdad tendría que estarlo. Así que él compuso un tema que hizo Erwin and Fire, After the Love Has Gone. Y me gustaría saber cómo se siente cuando otra persona le da popularidad a esa canción. You compose After the Love Has Gone.
I did lyrics and most of the melody.
How do you see someone else making that song being so popular? It's something
there have been a lot of covers of that song. I mean, I've covered it myself.
Yeah.
Numerous times at Airplay, there was a version on it with both me and Tommy Thunderberg singing. And then Airplay for the Planet, Jay did it again. And we did a little bit of a different version. It was beautiful. It was really good. And then and I've heard a lot of different versions of it.
Which one is your favorite?
Of all I think the one that I did with Jay on Airplay for
Jay
the
Gordo?
Planet. It's with Jay Graydon, who's a co-writer on the song, and his wire choir guitar stuff in the middle is just forget about it. He's just as good as it gets. Jay's a great guitar player. I mean, he's a little different than everybody else, and he's got a little more bebop kind of approach. I mean, I've seen him sit down at a piano and go crazy. He's a really great musician, just all the way around, top to bottom. Great producer. I mean, all those Al Jarreau records that are really good were all Jay's records.
Y bueno, lo que decía es que hay varios covers, incluso él mismo se hizo un cover con esta canción de Wind and Fire, que fue por ahí la versión más popular, y de hecho hizo una versión con Airplay, donde después se volvieron a reversionar con Tommy Thunderberg, y aparte le pregunté cuál es su versión favorita, y dijo que la versión con Jay es la que más le gusta de todas, que es un gran guitarrista, y encima puso también otro instrumento que ahora no me acuerdo cuál es, y bueno, está muy buena. Le voy a preguntar con quién le gustaría tocar. Él tocó con las leyendas más grandes del planeta, con casi todos con David Foster, con todos. Pero debe haber alguien con quien no ha tocado y le gustaría tocar. Vamos a ver quién es. You play with most of the legends in the music business.
Well, I've sung on a lot of their records. Let's put it that way. I mean, I've done a lot of sessions, but mostly as a singer. Not that many as a player. I'm not that good a reader. I'm just not that kind of what they call the A cats, the real A players. Those guys, you see those guys all the time. Luke's one of them. By the way, Luke and Jay Graydon and I co-wrote "Turn Your Love Around" for George Benson.
Well, why do you know that one?
Yeah, it was a big one for us. It was our second R&B Song of the Year Grammy.
Wow.
It was 2 years after the Earth, Wind, and Fire one, and I figured, hey, I'm going to get a Grammy every 2 years. I was wrong. I thought it seemed like, hey, let's just make a habit of this, Nah, didn't happen.
And who would like to play with? Who would like to sing with? Since probably you cover most of the ones that probably you love and you admire. But there's
Well,
someone that you might.
we did a lot of sessions with. I've done a lot of sessions for a lot of different people. Me and a guy named Max Carl, and Nigel Olsson and Dee Murray sang on some of the Elton John stuff. And actually, Tamron sang on one of his albums. It was when he was on Geffen Records for a couple of albums. And the song "Little Genies," we did those. We did all those together. So, and singing on an Elton record was an honor. But what was really cool about it is I realized what a great musician that guy is. He's a piece of work. He's a good musician.
Well, there's a few songs that remind me to Elton John here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to not, if I wasn't influenced by Elton, I was definitely influenced by the people that Elton was influenced by, And it's like what somebody said is there's only 12 notes. It's how you it's how you sing them, and that's kind of as a singer, that's sort of what I've been about. It's like use the 12 notes, that everybody else uses, but just use them your own way.
Right.
Somebody told me, if you hear something you like, steal it.
Yeah.
And then
That's
if
good.
you hear something else that you like, steal it. Like if you hear something Willie Nelson did in the morning, put it in your repertoire. And then in the evening, if you heard something Luther Vandross did, put that in, if you can, put that in your thing. After a while, they all start to meld together.
Blend.
And what do you have? You have your own style. I've copped a lot from Ray Charles. Lou Rawls was probably one of my all-time favorite singers, mostly for phrasing. His phrasing was really good. I asked him when we became friends later on. After I was.
I'm sorry, with who?
Lou Rawls.
Lou Rawls.
And I said, hey, where'd you get this back phrasing? You're always on the back end of it. And it always feels so cool. He says, because I forgot the words to the last minute. I went, yeah, I got it.
Really?
Okay. Jive. He's a fun guy, man. I like Lou. I finally sang on. Jay Graydon did an album with him and got me into stacks of vocals on the back of it. So I was actually working for one of my heroes. You know what I mean? And that was a big moment for me.
Who was the one that you didn't work yet, and you would love to?
Oh, Stevie Wonder, without a doubt.
You never played with him?
No, never have.
Okay.
Yeah. I've written a song about him, kind of not even about him, but about more of his music than about him.
Do you think he will be rich to listen this song?
I've tried. I don't think it got to him. He's got a lot of people that screen anything that comes in. He got hit up. One time somebody hit him for saying that they wrote the song that he put out, and it was a plagiarism lawsuit.
Whoa.
And I think he won it, but I think after that his lawyer said, don't listen to anything that if you don't personally know who it is that's getting it to you. So, maybe someday he'll hear it. I mean, I wanted him to hear it because right at the time he was kind of sick.
Not even listen it. Wow, that's...
Yeah, it's hard to get through to him. But I've sung on a lot of his stuff before. I mean, he had a song that Diane Warwick did that we sang, me and Richard Page and Vinette Cloud sang background on it, on Dion's record. That's a great album that Jay Graydon produced for Dionne Warwick. Great record, and the backgrounds on it are stellar. Even Jay says, hey man, I don't think I've ever done sessions with background this good. And then we brought the same group in to work for Al Jarreau on some stuff.
Al Jarreau? Wow.
Yeah, Jarreau's cool. He's a good guy. It was fun. He was a kick in the ass. Man, I had a ball hanging with him. Especially over at Jay's. Jay's studio was just a great place to work. Just musically, his focus on pop and West Coast music and stuff like that. His focus is just laser beam. He's great. He's an amazing musician and amazing producer, songwriter, player, good singer too. So Jay's one of my old pals. You know, I love him a lot.
I can see.
Yeah, he's really something.
Bueno, y a ver, de todo lo que dijo, que ha hecho cosas para Elton John, lo cual se siente orgulloso de hacerlo. De hecho, decía de que le habían dicho de que cada vez que encuentra algo interesante para reproducir, para volver a hacerlo, para hacerlo de su manera, que lo robe. Si encontrás algo de Willie Nelson, agarralo. Si lo encontrás algo de algún artista diferente a la noche, lo agarrás. Y toda esa mezcla termina siendo tu propio estilo. No me estaba contestando lo que le preguntaba, de con quién le gustaría trabajar, y dentro de todo, bueno, habló de Jay un montón, de que es su mejor amigo y que hizo un montón de cosas con él, incluso han grabado con Dionne Warwick, grandes, con el cantante de Mr. que es Mr. Singer es Richard Page.
Yeah.
Con Richard Page, unas voces impresionantes. Bueno, y al final me dijo de que le gustaría hacer algo con Stevie Wonder. De hecho, la canción que hizo es para un poco reflexionando su música. Le pregunté si de repente llegaría a oídos de él y él dijo que está intentando que la escuche. Lo que pasa es que hubo otro músico que le hizo escuchar una música y aparentemente él compuso algo similar y lo demandaron. Entonces los abogados le dijeron que no escuche ningún tipo de música de nadie porque puede meterse en problemas, lo cual es triste, y sé que es verdad porque me ha pasado de hablar con otros músicos que hicieron cosas así que bueno, cosas que pasan. How do you manage, ¿cómo te manejas entre ser papá, bueno, abuelo, esposo y encima músico? How do you manage to be dad, granddad, husband and rock star?
I'm not a rock star.
That's on the top.
I'm not a rock star. I've never liked. There's very few rock stars that I actually like. You know,
Well, I mentioned rock star,
Elton John was one that I
musician.
really liked.
Who?
Elton John.
Elton John.
It's just I just look at it that as being. I got in this for the music. I got in this for the performance, and I love to sing. That doesn't necessarily make me a rock star. It makes me a singer, songwriter, player, producer, all of those things. You know, and somebody says, well, "You like guitar better than keyboards?" And I'm going, "It's all the same thing." And I look at it as an art form, and I think the whole concept of rock star, it's not something that it fits me very well. It's not who I am. I mean, I tried it. I tried playing rock star. It wasn't working that
Well,
way.
once you
I'll
reach,
tell you a story.
yeah,
Look Away was a giant hit. I mean, a big hit.
Look Away.
And I sang it, and it was #1 on the charts. My daughter was about 16, and we had a long hallway to the carport where the car was. And she had been playing the First Sons album on her record player every day for about a week. And this was right while I was really full of myself with being #1 on the charts. And I was walking down the hallway, and she opened her door one day, and she said, "Dad, you used to be great." And it all just flashed in front of me. I said, "Enough of this." And then 2 days later, Matheson called and said, "Let's do a solo album. Let's do your first solo album." And it wasn't my first, but let's do a solo album for Japan. It was the Burn Down the Night album, which actually in the States was Turn Up the Music Group. It just really got my attention. She said, "Man, you used to be great." Sort of when you cared about the music rather than the success and the bank account and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
If you measure your success in music by how big your bank account is, fine, but it doesn't really mean anything. It just means money. It had nothing to do with how good you are, how much respect you have from other players and from people that really listen to what you're doing. And that to me is the best thing. You know, I mean, I don't know. Rock star is just I think it's a phrase that doesn't mean much to me anyway.
How will you describe Bill Champlin? ¿Cómo describirías a Bill Champlin?
I do a lot of stuff, and I pick a lot of stuff just basically musician, artist. I'm an artist, and that doesn't necessarily make me great. It doesn't make me better or worse than anybody else. I do what I do.
Yeah.
And I do that pretty well. I try to do what other people do, and I'm not as good at it. So the only thing that I really do at this point in my life, the only thing I really do, and the only thing I really want to do is my own thing. If somebody sends me a track to do background vocals on, yeah, I know how to do that. I can do that, and if it's a living.
You did a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah, and I've sung a lot of background vocals. Somebody showed me, this is 25 years ago. Somebody said, "Here's your discography," and it was over 300 records, and I went probably closer to 4 now. I mean, now you talk to Luke or anything, and the guy's been on 4,000 records.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain guys, Foster and Luke and a handful of cats out there, Dan Huff, different people like that. They've been on 1 million records. I mean, close to 1 million if you look at it that way. I was never that much of a.
But you did a lot.
I did a lot, yeah. But or it seemed like a lot at the time. But I mean, it was just. I got really lucky when I came to LA, and Jay Graydon and David Foster were my closest friends when I moved in, and they were doing basics for records, playing guitar and keyboard. When they finished the basic, they'd go to the producer and say, "When you're ready to do background vocals, call Bill. He'll do you good. He'll knock off some good stuff for you." And they got me my first gig, and I got me my second one. I did good work for the guy, so he called me back.
Are you still in touch with David?
Yeah, a little bit. Not much. I hadn't seen him for a long time. And then
he was busy with the Grammys, right?
Pardon me?
He was busy with the work with the Grammys, probably. He was the vice
I don't
president.
even know. I know that when I saw him, it was at his show. He was doing a show.
The show,
Great.
yeah.
It was great. It was right before the lockdowns started to happen. So we all had to stop for a while. And then, but it was a great show. He's just amazing. He's just, and I hadn't seen him for a long time. And I think at one point he was kind of down on me because he was down on Chicago and I was in Chicago. And he didn't put together the fact that I didn't have anything to do with this rift that he had between him and the original guys. I've always been the guy that said, never count Foster out. Because producers have slumps that they get into where they're not really doing much, but and a lot of them can't come out of the slump. David Foster, with those hands and with that creative musician that he always comes out of it.
Yeah,
he's a monster. He's just he's really, really good. I think him and David Page, are probably wrote the West Coast book. And maybe Walter and Donald Fagen in terms of letting music kind of carry you past stock pop, because the radio sometimes gets into some pretty stock pop music, it's like, no, that sounds like everything else. I think it's in that phase now. Everything sounds like everything else.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And that was a log jam that in the early 60s was broken by the Beatles and all of the groups that came out of England. The record company powers that be actually asked the musicians what's next, and that's happened numerous times in the music business. Is when you kind of hand it to the musicians to see what's going to be next. That's where you get guys like Jay Graydon and David Foster and David Page and Walter and Don, and those guys who went, I'm just going to go where the music takes me. I mean, look at Dirty Loops. They went where the music takes them. They're not sticking here. They're going here and tearing it up big time. Jacob Collier. There's a handful of musicians, Esperanza Spalding. There's a handful of musicians that are pushing the envelope. And I think it's only a matter of time for the envelope to actually open and change, and for the music business to start following some of this stuff. In the meantime, we have a lot of supermodels with record deals.
That's
fine and dandy, but guess what?
Yeah. I will see how can I translate all this.
Yeah. I mean, so
Bueno, el tema es que le pregunté, a ver, veamos, cómo hacía, él no se identifica como rockstar, él es músico, compositor, instrumentista, es decir, toca de todo, pero en definitiva no se identifica como rockstar, no le gusta mucho eso. La idea era preguntarle un poquito cómo se maneja entre su vida personal y su vida como músico, que no me lo respondió, pero habló tanto que preferí dejarlo hablar. Y después le pregunté, bueno, habló un montón de todo lo que dijo con David Foster también, de que siguen siendo amigos, hace rato que no hablan juntos. David Foster hablaba de cuántas canciones él ha participado, en cuántos discos, como 300, pero Lukather como en 4000. Y hay gente que ha estado en miles y miles de discos y bueno, trabajando con David Foster, que bueno, hace rato que no hablan, pero tal vez lo que él comenta es que David estaba un poquito como decepcionado por lo que pasó con la banda, donde estuvo él, Chicago, y que él no tenía nada que ver, pero de repente por lo que pasó entre ellos, que por ahí él pudo pagar un poco lo que ha pasado. Disculpen, habla demasiado, que está todo buenísimo, pero el tema es que no lo quiero interrumpir y al mismo tiempo me quiero traducir un poquito y en definitiva lo que no está dicho acá después lo pueden ver con subtítulos. Y bueno, voy a preguntarle un poquito de que, si colecciona algo él y ya vamos a ir cerrando. Do you collect anything? Do you have any collection of something or you don't care about that?
not really. You know, just equipment that I probably guitars. I got a handful of guitars that I rarely even play. I mean, I have one guitar that I play a lot. It's a little Taylor kind of a acoustic, but a real skinny one. And that's the one I play a lot. And my old Strat, but I do I play on record. And I've got a few like couple of HPs that are really good for more of a Les Paul kind of hard rock thing. But I mean, guitars mostly. I think I got a handful of keyboards. I mean, I mean, I'm using for my controller in my studio. I'm using a keyboard that I got from Korg probably 25 years ago. I still use it.
That's amazing.
It's just a controller. All it is a keyboard, and it runs all the other gear. So I mean, if it works, I don't fix it. You know?
You just use it and
Yeah, if it works, why do I need to change? You know, I mean, I keep doing what I keep doing. And you know, a lot of people really get into like, hey, there's a new soft synth, and there's a new this, and there's a new that. Have you written a new song with it? Have you recorded a new piece of music? I'm really into songs. Singers and songs, I think, is what makes it go. And the rest of the arrangement stuff is just how well you can arrange. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, show me a song that means something, that says something, and I'll be glad to sing it. Let's put it that way. I'm into it, you know.
Bueno, colecciona guitarras, básicamente eso, y después se puso a hablar de cómo es lo que él haría si le traen una buena canción. Él está por el tema, colecciona básicamente eso, pero es muy poquito, tiene sus equipos, algunos teclados por ahí también, pero no se dedica a coleccionar nada. Él está por la música, él está por las composiciones, por las letras. Tráeme una buena composición y yo la voy a cantar. Le voy a preguntar vamos a poner la pregunta de Luke, ¿ok? A ver qué le preguntó y ahí vamos a ver qué responde.
Do you have the same problems as me finding diamonds in your turds?
No, all I've found is a rocket. Thank you, Lowell George. Luke's great. There's nobody like, there's a one of a kind right there. He's really funny. Talk about a talented musician. You know, I just love him. You know,
Yeah.
there's nobody like him in the world. I think the first time I worked with Luke, he was maybe 18. He walked in and Foster was doing something. I happened to be in
You were
town.
18 or so.
Yeah, and we were at Sound Labs, I think, and Steve just kind of dropped by just to say hello and stuff like that. And David got us all on the microphone to do some background vocals, and it was like, you know, that was before we did the single album, you know, and Luke played all over that, and he's just an amazingly adept musician. you know, and a funny guy,
Funny
good,
guy.
good friend. Yeah, he's a kick.
Bueno, no, que busco cohetes, se reía, como habrán visto. Y bueno, Luke es súper divertido. Que cuando él tenía 18 fue la primera vez que Luke apareció en el estudio. Estaba David Foster y le dijo, vení a cantar. Y ahí fue donde la primera vez que trabajaron juntos. Bueno, ya estamos cerrando. Vamos a hacer la que él le preguntaría a otro artista. What would you like to ask to my future guest?
Aren't you? You have to be disappointed that you didn't learn Spanish.
That's a good one.
I asked my son one time when he was a kid, really young kid. I said, "It was Halloween." I said, "What do you want to be for Halloween?" He said, "Santa Claus." I went, "That's brilliant." Yeah, just somebody said once. The definition of a person that only speaks one language is an American.
Bueno,
That's me, pretty much.
Bueno, ¿por qué no aprendiste español para cantar si te sentís decepcionado por eso? Creo que eso fue lo que preguntó. Y decía que si hablas, ¿cómo se llama la gente que habla un solo idioma? Americano o norteamericano. Y nos reímos un poco. Así que bueno, lo voy a despedir y me voy a despedir con ustedes. Bill, thank you for your time. Thank you for opening your home to me.
Thanks for coming over, Lucas. It's really good to meet you. It's good to see that you're doing the TV show down there. It's great.
Yeah.
All systems are go.
That's it to go. Yeah, and the show is for you. The show, whatever you need to promote, I'm your
Awesome.
ally.
Thank you. I got all your info. It's gonna happen. I'll send the Girl Scout over with the cookies
Okay.
soon.
Thank
That's about as deep as payola as I'm going. You want cookies? We'll get you cookies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.